Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist Report for Sunday, the 20th of March. We're going to start off with Dave. He's going to be talking to you about, of course, as we all know, the subject is going to be the right wing for the foreseeable future with the midterms coming up. And then I will be talking about the website again. The intention is to show as much as I have done tonight, with the full intent of having this formally posted before the next stream Sunday. I will put a link in I do put a link in everyone. It is now called Factivistproject.org. No more becomeungovernable.info. That's gone. If you go there before next week, you will see a placeholder page. But come next week when it's posted, it will be the same website address. So I'm going to turn this over to Dave.
All right. So I am going to just plow right into it, and you guys will see where I am coming from on this thing. Hold on one second. Let me get in here. So, as Deb said, we are starting with the election information. I don't know how many people caught this. This happened very recently. This was from Friday, March 18th, from the Associated Press. Don Young, who was the longest serving House Republican in history, 49 years, he died at age 88. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is that every single House seat, every single Senate seat is important. You will see the right wing, their plan right now is not only to replace Democrats, but also to push seats held by Republicans farther right. This is a Nick Fuentes plan and an overall right-wing plan. So you're going to hear, and I'm not here to disparage Don Young personally, but as a congressperson, I know we're gonna hear a lot about how he was a champion for the people and Alaskans and all of that. But I took a look at his record, and personally, I think Alaskans can do better in terms of voting record. He was a Republican, so he did vote against voting rights. But one thing, just voting against the censuring of Paul Gosar, I'm just saying, I will keep an eye on this seat because I could see any number of things happening. This just happened a couple of days ago, so I'll see who is declaring or who is thinking about running.
By the way, he has voted against a lot of environmental bills.
He has voted against a ton of environmental stuff. He has a rating, a lifetime rating by the League of Conservation Voters. Yeah, the LCV, 10%. So 2021 score, he did a little bit better at 35%. So Alaska can do better environmentally. We'll see what happens. I know that someone related to the person who had last beat him for that seat back in 1972, he's thinking about running. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that. And we move to Colorado. This is Tina Peters, who was indicted on 10 felony counts by a grand jury on a mix of felony and misdemeanor charges, including allegations of attempting to influence a public servant and criminal impersonation. So she is running this year to unseat Democrat Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. And if Peters is successful, she would be the state's top election official.
So how is it that someone with 10 felony indictments for election fraud gets to run for Secretary of State? there needs to be some kind of, the notion that just anybody should be allowed to run for any public office based on just your age is fucking ridiculous in these times. It really is.
So this is getting into what, happened beyond when she was elected. Tina Peters' department was mired in political strife soon after she took office. Nearly 24 employees left the department, some alleging vote counting errors, others missed election deadlines, questionable spending, and a toxic work environment. March of 2020, workers discovered that a ballot drop box right outside the main entrance of the election office contained 574 uncounted ballots from the November 19 election. That kicked off an attempted recall in the summer of 2020 that ultimately failed. So how can you run? And then she turns around and backs up, stops to stop the steal, by the way. Right. So this is an article. Basically, it's the New Republic, the most important election in 2022 that you never heard of. These positions are important in higher elections, higher level elections like Senate, House, and the presidency. So the right wing is starting to target these.
Yeah, they
know
are.
that Donald Trump actually he endorsed someone in Georgia for Secretary of State and someone in Arizona for Secretary. I believe it was Arizona or Nevada. I always get those lower, but I
think it's both.
I think he only did 2, so I think it was Arizona, but I have it in the last slide. But the bottom line is these Attorney General, Secretary of State, they're becoming very important.
They're becoming a battleground.
They're becoming a battleground.
They are being targeted by the right wing for takeover in every state, including Massachusetts.
So this is a website called #vote. This page basically describes what the jobs are, like state treasurer, secretary of state of state offices. In most states, including Colorado, the Secretary of State serves as the chief elections official responsible for the conduct of elections. These responsibilities include the enforcement of qualifying rules, overseeing finance regulation, and the establishment of election day procedures. The Secretary of State is also chief recording officer in charge of custody and preservation of the state archives. They're also responsible for state trademark registration, business registration and regulation, and for the administration of notaries. So Jenna Griswold was the first Democratic Secretary of State in Colorado for decades.
60 years.
60, was it 60 or
60.
50? 60. So what Jenna Griswold basically said was these positions are important. And also the point was she was targeting Tina Peters specifically and said, of all people, you can't have her in here because this is an important office and she has shown that she cannot perform the duties of that office. So there are other people who are running.
She can't be trusted.
Correct.
To perform the duties of the office the way she's supposed to.
Correct.
By the way, let me just say that the Secretary of State, the reason these positions are being targeted, as insane as it sounds, but it is a fact. What they're going for here is a peaceful coup. If they can get these people into this position and they can fudge the information, fudge the details, and make this work if Donald Trump runs in 2024 or whoever the Republican Party puts up there in 2024, because honest to God, of all the names that are being floated right now, they're equally heinous. Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott. There is no difference between Donald Trump and these people. All right. Everybody that has talked about running for president is a Trump acolyte at this point.
Michael Flynn.
Michael Flynn. All the rest of the long-standing, I hate to use the word, but I will, normal Republicans are all leaving the party and basically leaving the party to these people. So if they can make this win without having to fucking storm the Capitol, then that's what they want to do. They want to make this a legitimate win or look legitimate. But if they have to storm the Capitol again, they fucking will. Don't ever think for a moment that they won't. I'm done.
I'm going to move to Michigan for a minute. Now, this is a state office. GOP candidate sparks outrage by saying if rape is inevitable, you should just lie back and enjoy it. So this was,
mind you, he told that to his daughters. Okay?
Yeah. So this is guy in the lower left-hand corner. His name is Robert R.J. Regan. And by the way, Michigan state Republicans condemning the comments by the GOP state House candidate means nothing. This guy is in the general election for this House seat. I understand it's a state House seat, but it's still important.
It is. That's where it all starts. That's
So
how they
May-
move the ladder.
May 4th is when this guy, is up. And he's projected to win because this is a Republican district. This is what he said. Having 3 daughters, I tell my daughters, if rape is inevitable, you should just lie back and enjoy it. He said during a Facebook Live broadcast. And what it seems like, this is kind of just a local group of people having a conversation. This is called Rescue Michigan, and I have the website up. It was founded by this guy, Adam DeAngeli. I'll get into it a little bit, but basically what you need to know is it's far right. So he won a special primary election for the 74th House District. Now, let's see if the Democrats can muster up a win against this guy. Let's see. In the Ballotpedia page, the person running against him doesn't even have a profile picture. I'm just saying. So, attendee Amber Harris reacted saying that was a shameful comment. They joked saying, oh, Facebook is going to take us down. Ha ha ha. So, this is Adam DeAngeli, the guy that I showed you, that's the founder. Basically, he's saying that people from the left are lying about January 6th, saying that it was an insurrection, that Trump truly believed that he had his votes stolen from him and blah, 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 blah.
I don't care what he believed. All right.
I believe I'm a unicorn.
He's a delusional fucking clown, is what he
Right.
is.
Exactly.
He's a dangerous man. He's a despot.
Okay, I'm not reading this. If you want to take a look at it, it'll be up on the website, but I'm just telling you, whatever. It's, we have and by the way, let's take back the word grassroots. Just because something's grassroots doesn't mean that Bernie is leading it. Rescue Michigan, blah, 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 and, how legislation originates. By the way, if they were so disgusted by this guy, he's right there. By the way, he's continuing to stream with them, so they didn't kick him out. When we didn't like somebody or what somebody was saying, we kicked them out. So there we go. how to fix Michigan's broken elections. Oh, there we go. State Senate Republican election reform plan. So there we go. This is the biography or ballotpedia biography of Robert Reagan. I noticed that he was affiliated with the following organization, Relational Concepts. And I looked at one of the blog posts, I guess it's basically religious gobbledygook. I'll put it up here for 2 seconds. Okay. Just saying.
I don't
Relationalconcepts.org.
Everybody is entitled to believe and worship in the manner that they choose. There is absolutely no room for religion, religious dogma, or practices in government on any fucking level, ever. There was a separation between church and state for a reason. There are people in this country, myself being one of them, who doesn't believe in any God at this point. And that is a fundamental right of every human being in this country.
By the way, we are now jumping to the state of Washington, and people think of Washington as a really progressive state. This particular district, the 3rd district, is very, Republican and right wing. This is a Right Wing Watch report, March 17th, by Kyle Montilla. GOP candidate Heidi St. John hopes to see the equivalent of the Nuremberg trials over the COVID-19 vaccines. She claims that a COVID-19 vaccine killed her father.
Whatever.
Now, she has no evidence. I'm not even going to go into it. Also, she injects religion highly into her campaign.
Oh, she has every intention of bringing religion into
the
government, and she has stated that openly.
Yes.
And by the way, all of this right-wing shit is being driven by Christian nationalists, just so everybody understands.
And also, before I close this page, I want you to understand that in February, St. John appeared on the Children's Health Defense's Tea Time program. So she is a friend of Robert Kennedy Jr. and his Children's Health Defense Fund. Declares that COVID-19 vaccines are crimes against humanity, and shared her hope that there will soon see the equivalent of the Nuremberg trials, in which the proponents of the vaccine will be sent to prison for the rest of their lives. Now, where is the medical freedom in that? There isn't.
Well, they're not interested in freedom, the right wing. They can talk
No,
about
they're not.
it. They're not interested in freedom. They're not. They're interested in authoritarianism. Their version of freedom is their freedom. And that's exactly what this is all about.
I also want people to know that I will be talking very soon about Michael Flynn and Roger Stone. I believe which one was it? I'm getting because they're like conspiring with each other. Which one said that? I think it was Stone that said that Kamala Harris should be impeached for not promoting ivermectin.
Well, basically, I was going to make a video on it this morning, but I'll probably make it maybe tomorrow morning. It depends on how far I get tonight on the website. But basically, his plan for reinstalling Donald Trump involves taking back the House and the Senate in 2022, and then voting to make Donald Trump Speaker of the House. So that
which they can do, by the way.
That is allowed by the Constitution, by the way. Okay, you can make him Speaker of the House by the Constitution. And then, there's a plan to get rid of Joe Biden, and then they will get rid of Kamala Harris because she refused to promote ivermectin. I don't know how they're going to fucking manage to pull that one off. And then after that, they'll be able, with Biden and Harris out of the way, Donald Trump is the third in line to assume the presidency. And that is Roger Stone's master plan. Yep. How about it,
So,
Roger? Yep. There's a solid fucking citizen for you.
I will be talking about both Roger Stone
and
and
for him at Danvers State Hospital here if he wants it.
So we're going to stay with the 3rd district. Just don't vote for Heidi St. John. Vote for anybody but no.
I'll vote for him.
Congressional candidate Joe Kent distances himself from white nationalists amid the social media spat. Basically, what happened was Nick Fuentes was wooing him and saying he'd help him, and then started helping him. And then people started asking Joe Kent about his relationship with Nick Fuentes, and he backed off. So one thing about Nick Fuentes, he's all about pushing people to the right, pushing a more right-wing candidate. And then once you get that candidate in, seeing if there's anybody even more right-wing than him, and then pushing that guy out until you go to freaking Mars.
The overall goal is to get rid of the traditional Republican Party.
Right. And this is more radical than the libertarians, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Way more.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So now we're going to go to Idaho. This is, I know I talked about Amon Bundy. This is a little bit from the Southern Poverty Law Center about the Bundy Ranch standoff, the American right. Amon Bundy is a militia guy, just so you know.
Sure is.
And he has been embroiled in this court case with his friend over a child that was claimed, the allegation was malnourishment, and they're taking this to a hardcore level. Amon Bundy's far-right group urges support, and they did dox this judge that made a determination against his friend. Just so you know.
I don't know if anyone has been doxxed, but I have.
Right.
Okay. It is a dangerous thing to do. It encourages anybody who's in a militia is encouraging that something be done about this person by doxing. Okay. You are giving their address. You are giving their location. In this case, he gave their vehicle identification number. Okay. The message is clear when you dox somebody. I have people constantly on my videos posting my address, constantly. I've taken my address down from everywhere now. It used to be relatively comfortable putting my address out there. This is a dangerous, dangerous situation. And Amon Bundy is violent. He has shown violence in the past. The Bundy standoff was violent. And he is encouraging violence. Don't make any mistake about what the intention is when these people do this shit.
I have not found out exactly what people in the past have done after they've doxed somebody and found out their vehicle identification number. I don't know. I know, with the phone number and the address, it's obvious.
That's enough.
But the VIN number, that seems even above and beyond. So I don't know what they would do with that. But this is violence toward this person. These are threats towards this judge for doing her job.
And the thing that kills me is they call this the People's Rights Group.
The People's Rights Group, yeah.
They're infringing on other people's privacy rights, okay, and their right to safety. This is bullshit. This is why when people tell me that the right wing cares about freedom, they don't give a fuck about freedom unless you are a right winger and white. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm calling it the way it is. You want to hear it and you don't want to hear it? I'm not really concerned with what you are comfortable with anymore.
And by the way, they're interfering with child safety.
Exactly.
The People's Rights Group sent out an alert to its members that included the judge's name, address, her car's VIN number, falsely claiming that the judge conspires with sex offenders to take children away from their parents.
Unbelievable. Just amazing.
So, Bundy also encouraged his acolytes Friday to protest outside the judge's house a week after he and other supporters protested and trespassed, according to police, at the hospital the child was receiving treatment at over "quote unquote" medical tyranny. Again, he was being treated for malnutrition.
So I guess what we should do is, because they're right-wing parents, we should let them starve their kids to death.
Right. Why am I bringing this up again? This is why. Idaho Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin wants Governor Little to intervene in child welfare case involving Alman Bundy. Alman Bundy's, by the way, protests. Alman Bundy is not directly involved in this case. It's a friend of his, by the way. And I think I mentioned this before, that Janice McGeachin was asked why she appeared at an event organized by a white nationalist. She ended the interview and later admitted that she knew who Fuentes was, but
she's a white supremacist, so why deny it?
So this was a CNN report. Credit Chris Kaliza, CNN editor at large, this past Thursday. He gave her the benefit of the doubt and said that under the best circumstances, this is what happened. She agreed to record a video for an event organized by a high-profile white nationalist. I mean, this guy is the high-profile white nationalist at this point.
The most dangerous man in America, I think.
She did zero due diligence, and by that I mean going to Google and typing in the name Nick Fuentes. She delivered the speech, and after it created controversy, decided to look him up. When pressed on by why she didn't know who she was speaking to, McGeachin said that she can't be held responsible for who she associates with.
Is that right? I don't know. It seems to me that the people over here on the right love to hold the people on the left responsible for who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
But not Donald Trump. All those pictures with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, they were fake. Remember those? Yeah, there's tons of them, by the way. Let me just say this. That's a thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene used as well. She didn't know what Nick Fuentes was. You know what? If you are in a position of government and you are asked to participate in an event, if you do not have the fucking mindset to go check what you're talking to and talking about and what the message is, then you probably shouldn't be in government.
And by the way, if a mistake is made, whatever, you apologize profusely, and somebody's probably going to get fired if they booked you.
No one's getting fired over here. She'll keep
her
job
I'm
and
saying,
she'll run again.
No, I'm saying if you were a Democrat, I don't see that ever happening. Actually,
yep.
So, I like this one. McGeachin named winner of a National Journalism Award for outright contempt of the people's right to know. Now, this is called the Black Hole Award for not disclosing information that people have a right to know. So, let's see here. So this is just Janice McGeachin. The men and women of this state have suffered 4 years of abuse. under the current governor. And she talks about, budgeting and all that kind of stuff. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Oh, McGeechan said she'd bring integrity to Idaho's elections without citing any inconsistencies. She also said, as governor, she'd push for a 50-state forensic audit of the 2020 election.
Guess what? As the governor of whatever the fuck state she's in, Idaho, little podunk
Yeah, Idaho.
She's got no power to push for a 50-state forensic investigation. She can go fuck herself.
Right. So, okay. The men and women of our state have suffered under 4 years of neglect and abuse. McGeechan said, even if my opponent is not incompetent, he is certainly indifferent to the thousands of hardworking Idahoans who lost their businesses and livelihoods during his lockdown of our economy. All right. Now, she's talking about the economy, blah, blah, blah. She can't even run her own the budget, the project budget crunch. State officials project budget crunch for Governor McGeechan. Now, this is a few $1,000s here and there, but you're talking, you can't even regulate your own budget. Just so you know. So she is but one. Oh, yeah, she is but one of the Trump endorsed candidates. And I know Deb is going to put a list of this in the website, probably put this page up. So before I give this over to Deb, I want to show you one last thing. This is just something that when Deb and I were previewing the show that I just stumbled upon. And I don't see this ever happening before, at least not on a regular basis. Republican Ohio Senate candidate calls opponent either a prick or a pussy. I don't know which one.
I don't know which one it was because they won't tell us.
Calls us a P in near altercation at a debate. I'm not going to go, you can read it, but these are two Republicans screaming at each other. You can't even have.
There's a battle in the Republican Party going on.
Yep.
There's a battle. There's a battle for the traditional Republican versus the far right wing Republican. And frankly, right now, the far right wing is winning in a big way. Even those people who are formerly were known as traditional Republicans, I'm just going to say this, if they're remaining silent while all of this is going on, if they're remaining silent and saying stuff like there's no room for anti-Semitism in the Republican Party, but they're not removing the people who are making anti-Semitism comments in the Republican Party, there's plenty of room for it. It's a bunch of shit, okay? Plenty of room for it. So, quite frankly, they're winning. And a lot of the traditional Republicans are refusing to run again. And they're basically turning their party over to the far right, just so people understand that. But let me explain something to you. If they win power back, it won't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. These people are dangerous and they must not be allowed to take power back under any circumstance in this climate, in this country at this time.
They are weaponizing people's opinions about certain things, masking, vaccinations, all that stuff against you.
And by the way, the trucker thing, it's got nothing to do with masks and mandates.
No,
nothing.
It doesn't.
Nothing.
And also
it's funded by the same freaking people who funded J6. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an excuse.
Yeah. I don't want to hear anybody say, well, just let the Republican Party implode. Guess what happens when the Republican Party implodes? Then the right wing will take power in the position of those old Republicans. And who's worse off? We are. So we have to identify who these people are and make sure they do not get into those seats. This guy, RJ Regan, if you're in that district, I know there are a couple people that listen that are in Michigan. If you're in that district, don't vote for him. Vote against him.
Yep.
And he's not primary. Vote for the Democrat. You have to send a message to these people. So, and with that being said, here is our message. All right.
Yeah, all right. So
Did you like that?
I'm going to show you the website. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place here. Okay. So I'm going to go through the website quickly. Not so quickly, but some of you guys weren't here last week, so I'm going to show you where we're at. This will be up, as I said, before next Sunday's stream. I do have some sections of this are not populated at all with information, but by next Friday, every section will have something in it, and we will continue updating this. This is going to be an active site that needs to be updated regularly. So we're done with Become Ungovernable. We're working only on facts now, and we're showing some of the things that we consider some of the most dangerous things in America right now. You know, Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. This guy here, Nicholas Fuentes, America First. What he means by America First is white America first. We've had burning swastikas in Draketown, Georgia. We've had Ku Klux Klan rallies in Charlottesville, Virginia. We had the Capitol insurrection. So we're going through at the beginning of this, all of the things that we see as alarming. You know, white nationalists marching at the University of Virginia. And the unholy alliance of the far right and the anti-vax movement. By the way, we're approaching 1 million people dead in the United States, over 6 million people worldwide. And they actually estimate that there may be 12 million people worldwide dead because not every country in the world started counting at the same time their deaths. So,
well, I would say, yeah, underdeveloped countries don't have a way to record that.
That's right. And by the way, let me just say this right now. You know, there was a big thing. One of my favorite singers, John Prine, died from COVID. And after he died, everybody was saying he didn't die from COVID. He had cancer. No, he died from COVID. If he had not died from COVID, he probably would have still been alive fighting cancer. And yes, he probably was going to die from cancer anyway, but he died from COVID. His wife emphatically stated that. You know, the only overriding message here for the American people, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. We have a bunch of people in this country now who are doing absolutely nothing to fight back at this. Okay? Nothing. When I mean nothing, I mean posting on Facebook isn't the answer. People need to go out and vote, and people need to understand how close we are. We already have fascist legislation in place. We are in the position now where we are legitimizing fascism through legislation. This stuff all needs to be fought. It doesn't matter whether these bills are being filed in Florida, Texas. If it's not your state, it really doesn't matter, because you know what? There's this thing called ALEC, and they have a cookie cutter plan to make these states pick up these bills that are being filed and move to another state. The state of Idaho just passed the 15-week abortion ban bill that was filed in Mississippi. This is going to continue.
By the way, I did want to mention this. There was a bill that was squashed, and I believe it was the Idaho State Senate, making it a felony to for conversion, dealing with conversion therapy. That didn't. It's not that they believe in it or anything like that. They were spinning it as a parental right to decide one way or the other.
That's another thing that'll be focused on in this website is the parental right notion that has been fostered by the right wing. Okay. The other thing that is happening is in the state of Arizona, where they have several legislators who are now ready to back a bill making abortion punishable by a homicide charge. These are dangerous, dangerous, dangerous things in this country. Move on to the next section. So that's just the opening page.
Yeah. While you're doing that, remember what I know. I'm going back to Reagan again. These comments about women who, if you're going to be raped, you just lie back and enjoy it. Well, when you get pregnant, then you can't do anything about it.
Right.
So you don't have absolutely no say about what happens.
By the way, most of these bills do not have exceptions for rape and incest, just so you understand that, okay? They don't. In fact, in some of these bills, they don't even have an exception for the health of the mother, okay? They don't. They believe that if we go back all the way to 1776, women just took their chances. So we're talking in this section, we talk a little bit about us. We're no longer become ungovernable. We're talking about our evolution. I'm talking about the events that kind of pushed us in the direction we're in. The election of Donald Trump the first time around, because he actually did fucking lose the second time around, no matter what he tells you. The COVID-19 pandemic and a total mishandling by the Trump administration, okay? It is estimated that there were 160,000 unnecessary deaths because of their actions. And by the way, nothing about the things that were put in place for the pandemic are oppression. They are inconveniences, okay? It's an inconvenience. It is not oppression. Any white person who's bitching about being oppressed by masks and vaccines is looking for something to bitch about. The white man is not oppressed in America. The Unite the Right rally, the GOP's draconian legislation across the board on everything, gay rights, transgender rights, women's rights, the rolling back of Roe v. Wade, the January 6th insurrection, which was not a bunch of peaceful patriots who got a little bit out of hand, and the fact that the current composition of the GOP includes 147 out of 221 legislators who voted to overturn a legitimate election to keep a dictator in place. Our mission is to deny the GOP a return to power, period, and end of story. Things that we consider the danger zone, the fact that, yes, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, there are fewer hate groups in the United States in 2021, but that's because hate's gone to the mainstream now. Now you can say whatever you want on social media under the guise of free speech. You can tell people they should just die. You can put people's addresses out there and encourage people to go and bother them, to harass them, or to hurt them. There's increased violent rhetoric, and that comes by and large from the Republican Party. Madison Cawthorn, saying if the next election is rigged, it will end in bloodshed. This election wasn't rigged, okay? New research by the Public Religion Research Institute shows that 30% of Republicans and 39% of those who believe the election was stolen now believe that, quote, true American patriots have to resort to violence to save the country. Representative Paul Gosar, who was censured for showing a video that shows him killing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Wendy Rogers, a white supremacist, talking about lynching and building gallows to hang her political opponents. And then the elevation of Kyle Rittenhouse to hero status. You know what? I'm not questioning the jury's decision based on the material that was fed to them, but I am going to tell you this. He had help from the judge. Anybody who takes a look at the way that judge handled that case has to know that. If you can't figure that out, then there's something wrong with you, okay? I'm just going to say that right out, flat out here. I think that judge should have been investigated. Kyle Rittenhouse was a thug who purchased a gun using a stimulus check. He purchased it illegally because he was too young to buy it in his state. He had his friend buy it. He then took it across state lines where he was not invited to protect buildings owned by shop owners who did not invite him. And he literally shot 2 people dead, one of them in the back several times, and maimed another one.
And by the way,
I'm not comfortable with vigilantism. I'm not.
When Lori Lightfoot called him out, she was criticized for it.
Right.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Right-wing nationalism is out of the closet and into government. All of these people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, Wendy Rogers, Janet McGeachin, they all spoke at AFPAC 3, America First Political Action Conference, whose leader is Nick Fuentes, whose goal is to replace the Republican Party with a white nationalist party. He has openly stated this. And he does this by hiding his white supremacy behind Christian conservatism. But I'll tell you what I think of Christian conservatism. Christian conservatism is behind all of this movement, financially and politically.
So, Deb, real quick, and we need to change McGeachin's spelling of her first name. It's Janice.
Okay.
Not that it matters much. Yeah.
No, I'll do it tonight. Not a problem. I haven't gotten to anything on this section yet. This is going to be the ideology section, but it's going to be talking about whitewashing history, refusing to teach CRT, marginalizing women, oppressing undesirables, and by undesirables, I mean gay, lesbian, and transgender people, dismantling public health, which is what's going on all across this country on a state-by-state basis. You know, Gretchen Whitmer, the anti-vaxxers in the state of Michigan, led the charge to have her emergency powers taken away. And then when they had a surge, they were the first ones out there saying she was missing in action. Well, they kind of took away her power to do anything to help the state. So they shouldn't be talking about that shit. Voter suppression. And then, to me, one of the most important things is the plan to dismantle public education. So this is what I basically worked on most of this week. This took a lot of work. We're getting into the players in this game. So we have the GOP seditionists right here, 147 members of the GOP who voted to overturn a legitimate election. This is all of them right here. I focused on some of the people I thought were the most heinous involved people. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Paul Gosar, Madison Cawthorn, who, by the way, admitted to being armed to the teeth. His wheelchair was loaded with weapons, and he actually admitted that inside the Capitol, he was handing weapons to people that were near him. This guy serves in the fucking Congress. Get a clue, people. Mo Brooks, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley. All the information you want on them, tons of links in here. There are others, you know. Jody Heiss, Republican in Georgia, Louis Gohmert, Texas, Elise Stefanik, New York, Scott Perry, Pennsylvania, Ronnie Jackson, Texas, Steve Scalise, Louisiana. They all promoted the big lie. And by the way, Roger Stone advocated in advance of the riot, advocated for and lobbied Donald Trump for preemptive pardons before the thing even happened. for himself, for Scott Perry, for Mo Brooks, for Josh Hawley. He had specific names of people he wanted protected and a guarantee of that they would be pardoned. So no one's going to tell me that this wasn't planned in advance.
Right.
Then we get to the Donald Trump section. This is really what took me most of this week. Donald Trump and his inner circle. You know, I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but to me, he was the worst president in American history, bar none. I thought Nixon, I thought no one could ever eclipse how bad Nixon was. I was wrong. Some of the things I thought were heinous beyond the big lie. Approving Keystone XL, knowing that it was environmentally unsound and would encroach on Native American territory. In fact, in 2019, it spilled 383,000 gallons of crude oil in North Dakota, destroying a half an acre of wetlands. He started lying right from the gate. Even when he won in 2016, he floated the notion that 3 to 5 million illegal ballots cost him the popular vote. He won the election, but Hillary Clinton actually won the popular vote. But we put people in office based on electoral votes, not popular votes. He started construction of the wall on his first Wednesday in office. And he lied that day to the American people about Mexico paying for it. In total, there are 30,573 false and misleading statements on record from Donald Trump in 4 years. More than half of them came in his last year. He instituted a Muslim travel ban. He insulted the people of Puerto Rico when he said basically that Hurricane Maria wasn't a tragedy like Hurricane Katrina was. This was after he took a sweet time giving them any relief whatsoever, and he took his time going to visit the people of Puerto Rico. But while he was down there, he managed to make a speech that he complained about how much money Puerto Rico was costing his government. And for the record, Hurricane Katrina killed a recorded 1,833 people. Hurricane Maria killed 3,000 Puerto Ricans. He downplayed COVID-19 for his own political gain. He did this right from the get-go. He vilified Anthony Fauci. He elevated people like Stella Emanuel, who claims to have cured COVID in 350 patients using hydroxychloroquine, except that she couldn't provide any medical records, any names, or any proof. He invited a doctor that we tried to get to come on our show, who claimed that the vaccine was a 666 vaccine that was going to change your DNA. She spoke at the fucking J6 insurrection. She spoke at the rally before the insurrection. He never embraced masking. He never embraced distancing. And by the way, he tested positive for COVID-19 3 days before his debate with Joe Biden. He did nothing about canceling that debate. He infected people in that room. And within 3 days of the end of that debate, he ended up on a helicopter at Walter Reed in a very bad condition from COVID-19. So if you're wondering why the American fucking people don't care about each other, it's because their fucking president doesn't care about anybody. And finally, and most telling of all, in my opinion, is his reverence for autocrats and dictators. He managed to take letters from Kim Jong-un home and called them, he brought them to Mar-a-Lago with him and called them love letters. He stated that he liked Kim Jong-un's strongman persona because people cowered when he spoke to them. And he thought that we could use Putin's tactics at our own southern border. Look at all those tanks. They're sure keeping the peace, aren't they? People really need to understand what's going on here. Seriously. Then we have Trump's inner circle. I focused on 9 people here, but there are again more, and I will probably add them as we go along. Steve Bannon, when you appoint a white nationalist as your chief strategist, it should be an alarm bell right now that go right away that goes off in people's heads. Okay, Ivanka Trump, he had no problem elevating a number of his family members into high positions that they weren't even close to being qualified for. Jared Kushner is another one. Now, they claim that they took no salary for their jobs, and that's probably true, but they didn't really need to because they pulled in $640 million in personal wealth while they were working for Trump. And that's because, unlike the rural state, none of them ever got rid of their business connections. They pulled in $640 million by continuing to run Donald Trump's businesses. Rudy Giuliani. Used to be called America's mayor after 9/11, but in fact, as my niece said, who lives in New York, America's mayor, my ass, he did the same thing any mayor would have done under the circumstances, and that was it. He wasn't a hero, and he wasn't. He's the one, by and large, who started the Burisma bullshit. And all you need to do is read his own words to understand how bogus this whole thing was. You can click on that and get his own words here, okay? You can click on any of these blue links and find out. He's been disbarred for continuing to push the big lie. He's been disbarred in New York. He's been disbarred in Washington, D.C.
By the way,
he has a long history of covering for Donald Trump.
I know that the Burisma thing is being pushed again.
Yeah, of course it is. It's
show us the evidence. Show us the emails that you say that are there. Show us the documentation, and we'll listen and we'll read it. But you're not gonna, because it isn't there.
It isn't there.
There's a guy pushing a book now on Fox News.
Yeah, of course it is. Anybody gets book deals today. Doesn't matter. You don't have to tell the truth.
Doesn't matter.
Just matters. All it matters is going to sell books.
God, Roger Stone looks like a Batman villain. He really does. Jesus Christ. Jesus God.
Sidney Powell, the Kraken Queen. That's what her nickname is. She was so intent on pushing the big lie that her most creative allegation in my book was that Hugo Chavez was controlling the voting systems, the president of Venezuela. But I do want to tell you that Hugo Chavez has been dead since 2013. So he wasn't fucking controlling anything. Okay.
Hey, maybe Stella Emanuel through her voodoo got him. Yeah, I'm just saying, whatever. Jesus Christ.
She was told to cease and desist by Dominion Voting Systems. They eventually sued her over the fact that she was casting, doubt on their systems. And then when she finally got to the point where she had to defend herself, her defense was, no reasonable person would believe her lies. But people do believe her lies, and she's still pushing this narrative. And by the way, she's also raiding a nonprofit to pay for her legal expenses. Lynn Wood, he's another one. He's also an attorney. Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood were at one point Trump's attorneys in this whole Stop the Steal thing. So Lynn Wood went from representing Richard Jewell. Does everybody remember him? He was the guy who was wrongly accused of planting a bomb at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. Well,
my brother lived in Atlanta during that time. So it was a big deal.
Okay, so he represented Richard Jewell in that defamation case. So he's gone from representing people like Richard Jewell to representing people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Kyle Rittenhouse. He has been only too happy to promote the big lie. He got off on being, adored by Trump loyalists. He filed a number of error-riddled, frivolous election conspiracy lawsuits, and they eventually caught up with him. And he's now being investigated for illegal voting. when the wall started caving in on him, of course, he did what any good bottom feeder does, and he blamed Sidney Powell for all of it.
Yeah.
Just so you understand that. But now he's, got a brand new conspiracy theory, and that's that Mike Lindell is being played by the deep state. I mean, I can't help but laugh at this shit, but
I know it's not funny, but
no, I mean, I laugh at it. I'm typing it and I'm laughing while I'm typing, but the fact of the matter is there are fucking idiots out there who believe this shit wholeheartedly. Right. So let's get on to Roger Stone, another charming individual. He was convicted on 7 felony counts of witness tampering and lying to Congress as a result of the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Part of that came from his 2017 testimony to the House Intelligence Committee, which you can read right here.
Oh, cool.
Trump commuted his sentence in 2020, a few days before reporting to serve a 40-month sentence. So he actually never did go to jail. And everybody, of course, viewed that as a thank you for literally, this guy spent a lot of his time diverting investigations into Trump that would have been very damaging to his presidency. But since he's didn't serve any time in prison, he's been spending a lot of time on the big lie. And of course, the Stop the Steal rally, and of course, preemptive pardoning of the perpetrators. And by the way, that includes himself, Paul Gosar, and Andy Biggs is another guy. He's another Arizona representative who was involved in this. He, as I said earlier, he's cooked up a new scheme for the GOP to reinstall Trump once they take back control of the House in 2022, which honestly must not happen.
And I will be covering Stone either next week or the week after. He to me is becoming the new Steve Bannon. He is taking on some high-profile candidates. There's one in Oklahoma, and his plan also is to push the Republican Party to the right. He's trying to primary an already Republican seat farther to the right.
Right. That's the goal. Get the traditional Republicans out. Then we have here the last three. Mark Meadows, who gave up his job as a North Carolina congressman to become a foot soldier for Trump. He was Trump's chief of staff. And his job was to keep Donald Trump in power. So these are the people that he drew in. And these are the people that Stone sought preemptive pardons for. I'm going to read all the names now. Louis Gohmert, Texas; Jim Jordan, Ohio; Paul Gosar, Arizona; Andy Biggs, Arizona; Mo Brooks, Alabama; and Scott Perry, Pennsylvania. They were all involved in the Stop the Steal rally. They are being looked at by the J6 Commission. Not one of them is cooperating with the J6 Commission. Many of them have taken the Fifth Amendment. Others are trying to sue the commission to stop the progression of documents. They are losing, but they are stalling, okay? These people are all members of the ultra-conservative Freedom Caucus. And Mark Meadows was the co-founder of the Freedom Caucus in 2015. Once Mark Meadows took over, the calls pressuring the Department of Justice to overturn the election began. He even produced a 36-page PowerPoint presentation, laying it all out and identifying the problem states. You can click on that PowerPoint presentation, blue text right there, and you will get the PowerPoint presentation. But right now, it seems that Mark Meadows sold his house in North Carolina. And they are also investigating him for voter fraud. So the Republicans finally do have their voter fraud, but the problem is it's the Republicans committing it. He literally voted naming a residence in North Carolina that was a trailer in a trailer park, which he never lived in. So they are investigating him for that. He is also may very well face disbarment. That is unknown at this time. Michael Flynn. And as I say here, I won't call him fringe because right now, as far right as you can get is the face of the Republican Party, but he is as unhinged as any human being I have ever met. This is a guy who was the only member of Trump's administration to plead guilty twice in Robert Mueller's Russia investigation.
How long was he in the cabinet? How long was he in the cabinet? Like a day?
18 days.
18
and let
days.
me just say this. It's hard for me to think of this guy as being fit for dog catcher, but as national security advisor, this guy, yeah, you might as well put a fucking goldfish in there. All right. Because this guy who is calling for he's now the darling of the QAnon set. And by the way, there is a big investigative report in here about how he has used the internet to not only push the QAnon stuff, but to make money off it. All right. He's getting very rich off this. Okay. He has called for a Myanmar style coup in the United States. And now many QAnon followers are warming up to that idea. After receiving an AR-15 as a gift at a California church service, don't ask me, God bless the Christians giving out AR-15s as gifts. It's amazing, isn't it? They love God, don't they? Yeah.
Did they have a cross? Did they have a cross on the barrel?
Yeah, after he got that gift, he got up to make a speech after they gave him the gun, and he said maybe he would find somebody to use it on in Washington, D.C. Okay. Of all the people, violent rhetoric is becoming big with the GOP, but of all the people spewing it, this guy is absolutely, on a daily basis, has something to say that's violent. He actually wanted Trump to use martial law to overturn the election. And he's not done yet. He's got a long game in the works here. All right. And he's not stopping. And people need to understand that. He's even talking about running for the presidency.
I waited on doing a big thing on Flynn and Stone this week because they have worked together, but I want to know how extensive that is, and we'll know a little bit more about it. So I will be talking about both Flynn and Stone a little bit more.
John Eastman. John Eastman, prior to getting himself involved with Donald Trump, was actually not a very well-known person, but he was a respected conservative academic and litigator. Not anymore. Getting involved with Donald Trump took care of that. The reason why he even did what he did and joined the Trump train is still somewhat murky. Okay, there is also another attorney that's referenced in that article. And they both became involved in this. But he became a proponent of the big lie and actually wrote the memo that detailed the 6-point plan that they wanted Mike Pence to use to overturn the 2020 election. And you can see that that's also in here. He is facing disbarment right now as we speak in California and Washington, just like his buddy Rudy Giuliani. He has taken the fifth in front of the January 6th committee. He was cited for contempt. A judge demanded that he start looking at documents and releasing them. He has released over 8,000 emails to the committee, but he's trying to hide 11,000 emails from the committee. And those are also now being reviewed for release. By the way, he is using the Christian crowdfunding site Give, Send, Go to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for his legal fees. He started out asking for 100,000. He's up to, I believe, $275,000 now. And people are stupid enough to send him money. That's all I can say. You know, we know that's not the end of his inner circle, Trump's inner circle, but for now, these are the people that need to be focused on. I will add more as we go along. Because as you know, inner circle people with Trump change, almost like I changed my underwear. We will have a section here called the pipeline. It's not populated yet. These are people who are going to be running in the 2022 midterms, as well as people who are projected to run in 2024. There will be, you know, other senators and Congress people whose terms aren't up until 2024, and then there's the presidency. Okay, so all of that needs to be done yet.
Yeah.
We're
So
going to
Deb,
have,
before you go on, because that's actually what I was focusing on in my presentation. I want to let people know that a lot of the people, most of the people, if not all of them, are going to be in there, as well as there are people that Nick Fuentes is looking at. There are people on, you know, on their own little live stream shows that he's recruiting. I'm not going to name any names yet, but this is a long-term game. So we're going to focus mostly on this election, but we are going to update it as this goes along.
so
Thanks,
I want to take you back here to the players. I just showed you the Donald Trump portion of the program, but underneath there's going to be subsets of that. We're going to have activist groups. That's where America First will come in.
Yeah.
We'll have corporations that funded the January 6th insurrection.
AT&T, stuff like that.
Yep. We're going to have the media figures who promoted all of this bullshit.
Yep.
You know, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, you know, all these sub-larval entities that continue to aid and abet the Donald Trump lies. And then the benefactors. These are people who may be just private citizens who give this guy a lot of money.
Or maybe they got, relief loans, the business relief loans from the, from the COVID stuff or stuff like that. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I just did the pipeline. You and I just talked about that.
Yep.
I will have a glossary in here. There are a lot of terms, you know. I did a video the other day about incels and, you know, wrist cells and gym cells and assholes. And, you know, there'll be a glossary in here, you know, the big lie, some of the other terms that I have.
New World Order.
Yeah. Groipa, New World Order, you know, the big lie, the Great Reset, the Great Replacement Theory, parental rights, medical tyranny. We're going to do it all. Okay. Then we get to our vision. I started this today. I'm going to finish this tonight.
Yep.
We have been working on for a long time a Declaration of Human Rights. You know, my opinion is that the Constitution should have been written after the Bill of Rights, not before. But that's, you know, you can't go back and change history. But given the current climate in this country, we need a new Bill of Rights. And I realize that's an uphill battle. But our hope is that we can produce our version of a Bill of Rights and then maybe start working through the system to put protection in. You know, if people would, we just need to pass the Equality Act and everybody will be covered. But that's not going to pass in this climate. We need to stop people's rights from being compromised by legislation. Rights should be rights, and nobody's rights should be overturned by referendum or legislation coming from anybody. Human rights and civil rights should be inalienable, untouchable rights. So a woman's right to choose should not be able to be overturned by legislation. Gay people's rights, the right to marry, should not be overturned by legislation. So we have about 30. I'm cutting them down right now. I'm reworking them. I'm rewriting them. I've got the first 9 in right now. Things like, no one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest, detention, deportation, exile, or denial of legal counsel. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person without exception or distinction. The preamble to me is the most important part. Nobody's, everybody gets the same rights. And this includes, but is not limited to, race. They shall not be infringed based on race, sex, language, religious denomination, the status, sexual orientation, gender identity, economic status, political opinions, national social origin, property status, birth, or other status. They even have they're even talking about a law now that denies you your birthright in the United States. They're going to want you to prove that you're an American. I'm an Italian American. I have the right to retain my personal national identity. I was born here. I'm an American. End of story. There's going to be, I'm guessing there's probably about 22 or 23 by the time I'm done paring these down. Right. But that's going to be this part of the section. And then I don't know if there's going to be anything else. It could be,
right.
This thing is going to be a living, website. We have a contact form. At the end, people can send us a name. We'll put you on a mailing list. And the goal is for us to use the mail list to communicate on a routine basis. So that's about where we are right now with this project. But as I said, I want it up. I'd like it to be up by next Wednesday, but let me just say that by Friday, it'll be up, posted, and active. It is going to be under factivistproject.org. You can type that in now and you will see a placeholder for it.
Yep.
Where it is.
I do have a couple comments. The first comment is I just find it highly ironic and frankly hypocritical that the two people that are talking about this lack of birthright, national birthright, their names are Nicholas Fuentes and Neil Kumar. It's like, that's the first thing. The second thing is there have been a couple of things that happened in regards to transgenders that are disturbing to me. I lived in Rogers Park for almost 10 years at Rogers Park, that's in Chicago, Illinois, and there was a transgender activist that was found dead in Lake Michigan. She was missing for a little over a week, and they're investigating it. They don't know whether it looks like either a suicide or a homicide. Either way, it's heartbreaking, and transgender rights need to be protected at all costs. The next thing I have to say about that is Leah Thomas has done nothing wrong. Leave her the fuck alone. Let her compete, and treating her like a second-class citizen when she's competing is disgusting. Booing her when all that. By the way, I know she won an event, but she also came in 5th in another event and came in last in another event. That's called competition.
Right.
One thing,
and by the way,
yeah,
you'll notice that nobody's focusing on the races where she came in at the bottom of the rung, because that kind of blows their theory out of the water that there's an advantage. Okay.
One person that I actually admired at one point, Martina Navratilova, said that if she did happen to be blowing away, all sorts of records, maybe she shouldn't be allowed to compete. Martina, come on, give me a freaking break.
Martina Navratilova blew away all kinds of records. Okay, so
stop it already.
Yeah, and by the way, losing 2 out of 3 is not blowing away all kinds of records. Okay.
All right. Well, this was before Leah Thomas competed. She was like, well, if she wins all sorts of stuff, I mean, wait a minute, isn't that what you're supposed to try to do? Right. So, come on.
Right.
Oh, somebody.
Well, let me kill this right now.
Yeah, I saw that. Paleo conservative. Nick Fuentes is a paleo conservative.
Yeah, right. Well, he's really, actually, Marcy, he's pretty bad, Nick Fuentes. I did a video on him the other night. And he's an incel, which is an involuntarily celibate individual, right? And this is becoming a new thing in America. Males who have bad feelings about women because they can't get what they want, so they resort to violence. There's actually a Secret Service study about Secret Service report out that talks about how that happened in one state, and about the growing threat of this. And, I really basically did go on his Twitter page and told him it's going to be hard for him to get a date in America these days with a woman when you espouse that they shouldn't have the right to vote and they are only there to create children. You're not going to get a date that way.
Well, plus you're picking your own buggers.
What incel is becoming is another excuse to use violence. Really all this is that's what this is all about. The poor woe is me white boys again. Yeah. Okay. Again.
Well, I have a question about him real quick. Isn't he a voluntary incel?
Yeah.
How the hell does that work? I'm a voluntary, involuntary celibate.
He should probably also refrain from picking his nose and eating it on camera too. That might not get him so many dates, but I've seen him do that too, but that's just me. Again, hold
on, I got an itch.
Yeah.
I didn't eat nothing. All right.
So that's where we are. I just want to say this about the January 6th Commission. I believe that they have the goods to make some real strides with this insurrection.
I just got a news alert. Liz Cheney is saying they will be announcing. They didn't say a date yet. I don't think they can. They're going to televise it, and
listen,
this one's going to be interesting to see how far they go and who they hit.
Let me just say this right now. They see their biggest challenge as getting the American people interested. I don't fucking understand. You're okay with all of this? You got too many other things to do with your time that you can just sit back and say, oh, it was a year ago. It doesn't matter that 5 people died and they literally broke into the fucking Capitol with the intention of taking people hostage and harming them and stopping the democratic process. I can't imagine what could be more important to the people of the United States than seeing this brought to justice. Okay. When Watergate happened, everybody was interested in it. I don't know what's happened to this country, but you really ought to wake up. And I'm talking to, not just to the people out there, I'm talking to everybody that's on this stream right this minute. This is not a joke. And January 6th was not a drill, and it was not a one-time deal. Okay? We now have truckers in Washington who are ramming cars on purpose, grifting off the American public. They're not hardworking people. They haven't worked in 23 days. They are assuming that everybody who gets angry with them on the highway is an Antifa operative. They're slamming into their cars, and they're standing up on flatbeds talking about how they're going to wipe Black Lives Matter off the street in Washington and take it back for the white people.
They started that shit back at the election time.
Absolutely.
They ran, my neighbor went someplace with my one neighbor. He's going to be 80-year-old here, excuse me, soon. And they ran us off the road because he had a Biden sticker on his car.
Yep. Yeah, I tell you, I don't know what could be more important. Maybe you guys will, maybe white people feel comfortable living under that kind of authoritarian rule because they don't feel like they're in danger. But I've got to tell you this, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with any of it. I'm not comfortable.
I think it's fun,
I'm not comfortable with my children living under those conditions. I have a transgender child. Okay. I am not comfortable with any of this. And none of this is okay. None of this is normal. Okay. This will be a defining moment for America, in my opinion. Okay.
Well, it's scary.
You care or you don't care.
It's very scary.
It is. It's totally
you feel
frightening.
Powerless to do anything about it. And they think it's a fucking game.
These people have literally, honest to God, they have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. In Canada, they had bouncy houses for their kids. And by the way, they're bringing their children with them because they know that the police can't do what they need to do to stop anything when they have their children with them. Yeah. This is, people need to wake the fuck up in this country. We are in a very bad state here. And, what happens in 2022 and 2024 will dictate where we go as a nation. We look just like Nazi Germany before this happened in Nazi Germany. We're all sitting back and letting it fly. And, these people are just motivating along. They're just doing what they do. And they have been doing this for a long time. We need to show the resolve to push back on this. Decent people don't fight for these people's rights. Decent people push back on people like this, okay? That's what decent people do, is they protect people's freedoms, freedom for everybody that's here. And by the way, Nicolas Fuentes wants to close the border to even legal immigration. You know what? I don't either. I don't want to live in an all-white society.
And by the way, before we go, this is happening right now. Some of these special elections are happening in May. If you're in those districts, pay attention. And the whole narrative of your vote doesn't count, your vote doesn't matter, voting for the lesser of two evils, it's all bullshit.
Right. There is a lesser of two evils.
We fell for that. And now the lesser of two evils, the gap is way wider now.
Yep.
Because we allowed, by not voting over time, we have allowed this to progress. Now we have to pull back on it and say,
the problem is the left wing doesn't go out and vote. The right wing always votes.
Right.
So we're going to have to match that. And, just so everybody understands it, on a state-by-state basis, the Republicans have indulged in voter suppression legislation. It is passed in a number of states already. Okay. Yep. Now you can't vote in churches anymore in some states. Well, that's where Black people vote a lot of times, because that's when they can get to the polls. This is all by design. All right. All by design. Okay.
And by the way, the only people that ever push for legislation for Election Day to be a national holiday, Democrats.
Right.
They're the ones that push it. So
Okay, gang. That's where we are at tonight. We will be back next week, and this website will be up in its entirety. If you are on the mail list, once it's posted and it's up and it's live, I will send an email out with the link. So you will be seeing that before next Sunday's stream. But I don't want to stay on too long because I really want to get back on this. And I was hoping to be able to
Yep.
spend the day on this tomorrow, but as it turns out, I must work.
Bye, everyone, and happy from Deb and myself, wearing green. Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend.
I wear this every weekend.
I know.
Thanks, guys, for coming by.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you next week.
Mhm.